Yeah, welcome to the lead design presentation Spring Summer 2019. Collection theme, as you already know, is humble action. As usual, you receive the books in the box, 4 books for those who do women's wear and 3 books for those who don't do women's wear, plus the graphics on you already received by WeTransfer, I guess. So today we start with heritage, then we do denim and FTW, and finish with women's wear. Let's start with heritage. In general, the whole, or let's say I would like to explain briefly about the collection theme itself, humble action. As you know, also from our Salesforce meeting in Berlin 2 weeks ago, we are currently living in times where a lot of things, a lot of values change, and Lead Design Spring Summer 2019 actually is almost introducing the second decade of the 21st century, because we are starting to move into 2020. Yeah. Normally we always say the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, but actually we are already much further, and now we can also talking about the 10s and the 20s in the 21st century, of course. So the 2 decades of the 21st century means from 2000 to 2020 will pass soon, and it looks like when people might look back what had happened at that time, that one of the major impacts, or what is the major impact of the first 20 years is maybe they were once known as the time of change. Time of change in many different ways, not only because of technological changes, means as I already explained also previously, technology always has periods of dramatic change, and then there's a time of almost no change anymore, because it has to be digested, those changes. And usually it was said that these technological changes might happen every 50, 70 years, but the more modern our society becomes, it looks like those periods get shorter and shorter. Like maybe the last big change made was the Industrial Revolution in the 20s of the 20th century, of course. But the next big one, what people say, even the effects just showing now, was the internet, and actually what came with all the online features is that life has completely changed. So this is the technology part, but even when you look what is currently going up into, let's say, mobility or even space exploration, all these kind of things, all these changes wouldn't be possible if the internet has not been launched in the 80s, back in the 80s. And that is on top, beside the technological innovation, we have also a change in political and in social landscape, which means we are living in times where shared values, which we had the last 50 years, let's say after the Second World War until the early 21st century, there was a common understanding what let's say in easy talking, what is good, what is bad, what you should do, what you should not do, what you can do, what you can't do. And it seems like this is currently under, or it's currently changing, because in the world we currently experience that political leaders also have different values. And again, I do not want to make a statement or judge about what kind of values they are. It's just the fact that these changes. But when political leaders, which used to be or which should be like a leading figure for societies and for human beings, when they have different value habits, a lot of, let's say, common people also understand this is what you can do now, which change, of course, general values in society, because suddenly what might be, let's say, when my parents or when I grew up 50 years ago, there were things you understand, this you shouldn't do and this you can do. And now these values has been changed. Now there are things which I would have never been thinking of doing, which people currently are doing. So there's a shift, and this is affecting, of course, society and our life. So shared values have lost their validity, and currently we are living in times where humankind, where people look what are the new ones when they change. And there's a time of uncertainty, because when values changes means that habits changes, and then people are a little bit insecure what is the direction. So in these times, action is required. When there's a lot of change, either it is technological, either it's political, it's social, it's about values, action is requested, is required. But currently we are struggling and we are looking for ways what is the right way. And there is, or what is saying, this collection is saying that the change should be moving from something impulsive to something more humble, from something wild to something more well considered. That's why the lead design name Humble Action coming from. So activity is necessary. We need to move, we need to act, we need to change. But the way of changing should be well considered, should be well thought through, should be in a way, meaning of humble. In these fast times, humble doesn't mean doing nothing, but it's more like thinking over what you really think is the right way to do. We have again, as usually, different sub-themes for every delivery, and we starting with Heritage First Delivery, which the title of the first delivery is Metropolitan Gardener. As usually, what you already understand from previous collection, the title already consists very much the idea of every delivery, at the same time covering the lead design theme itself. So Metropolitan Gardener, metropolitan stands, of course, for the action, stands for the changes, stands for what is moving. While the gardener usually is, when you are a gardener, usually life is a bit slowed down, you take care more about things, you take your time, plants need to grow, it's not about speed, it's more about the consideration, it's more about the humbleness. So the mix of Metropolitan Gardener at the end means also humble action. When you look at the mood board, you can see everything is communicating urbanity, so it's about metropolitan, it's in the city, it's in the area of changes, fast changes lifestyle, but the whole composition of the pictures is very calm, very quiet, more humble at the end, which also reflects not only, of course, the mood of the picture, but when we later go through fabrics, way of colors, treatments and washings, everything talking about these slowing down processes for which we present this humbleness. So at the end, this delivery is about country styling, which says the gardener, but it's urban. We have tailoring details. We see simplicity and comfortability, less is more, and unfussiness. Of course, here we have always a mix of two aspects. So in the fabrics, it's natural fiber standing for the gardener, but with synthetic blends to achieve a crispy hand feel, which talks about the metropolitan. So it can be even a cotton poly. You know? Maybe 100% cotton has a very sturdy hand feel, while cotton poly, let's say 70-30 or 80-20, can get a little bit more crispy and has a different hand feel, which is giving this urban effect on the hand feel. We use color and fabric blockings, but it's not about extremes. It's about monochromatic, simple color and fabric blockings. So let's say when later we go through the color card, you will see even in the colors that it's not about extreme contrast. It's more about tonality. Same comes to shirt patterns when we're talking about the checks. They are pretty easy in the sense of design. They are not complicated. So very symmetrical, very basic from the pattern itself. They can be small to mid-scale, so it's not about the big size checks. But all of them have a sun-faded approach. But this sun fading is not achieved by washings, it's achieved by the choice of yarns, you know, so that you have this idea of lightness on the top. And the whole, when it comes to the mood, also about the graphics, we have a botanical mood, meadow flowers, textured artworks, so everything talking about these gardener feel, but the way it's done should always have an urban and modern approach. Jetzt brauchen wir mal kurz Licht for the colors. Oder warte mal, ich schiebe das nach vorne. Das geht auch so. Yeah. I mean, all of you know the colors already. It's just a quick review. As you can see, the color inspiration itself, which you see here, and which is communicated through the color board itself. Don't look at the air, that's a sticker. Yes, this is a sticker. So when you look at the color card itself, you see again here the two parts. You see, let's say, a strong range of colors which talks garden. Either it's about the greens of the plants, or it's all about the earthen colors of the pottery and the earth in or of the garden. While on the lower part you see these very urbanized colors of concrete, of walls, of structures which talk city. So metropolitan gardener at the end mixes both ideas. And what I told you about the simple color block and fabric blocking, of course, when you play around these colors, it is the idea is to mix both parts. So choose one of the upper part and choose one of the lower part. You can go contrast, which means you go maybe brown and green. But you can do a tonal, then you go green. Yeah. Even when you do pattern mix, can play around with those colors and mix them together. And of course, fabric-wise, you might have differences. While the gardener part can be the cottons we were talking about, the sturdy cottons, high density. While this part, the lower part, then you inject the urbanity by adding polyamide yarns or polyester blends. These colors here on the lower part is the one we already choose by original fabrics and cuttings. So at the end, representing the same idea, just going more further down to slightly orangey blends. Important for this delivery, don't miss this part, the neutrals, because they will help you to break when you work on an outfit, or when you need, sometimes you need contrast, especially when you work on patterns. Let's say you're working on stripes, on checks, you need the natural lighter blends to achieve the change in the pattern. Okay, we're talking again about the fabrics. First part are the cotton flats with a papery touch. So these would be already let's say, a cotton feel with an urbanity blend. The papery touch can be achieved, as I said already, either by polyester polyamide blends, or you have really high density cotton fabrics, which gives this crispy papery touch. The knit part, simple matte knit structure. So it's again about easy structures, easy whips, but not necessary here. We are not talking about cables. We're talking really about simple structures. Very, you can mix them, like giving them different direction, but leave them very clean, leave them really simple. And at the end, it's all about new basics also, new basic knit items. This is a good example for the sun-faded checks. As you see, mirrored, symmetrical, simple, easy pattern, but all lightened up, sun-faded without treatments. Small to mid-scale. And now we're coming to the different items, starting with the outerwears. We're going again from big to small piece. So the first piece we are talking about, when you see the last tendencies in outerwear, you see everywhere coats in the men's and in the women's. But the coats are very, very light. So it's really like a simple piece you just put on top. So it's nothing about a coat in the sense of winter, which protects. It's really just an easy dressing item, a styling item. And that's what you see in the top. So the Gardner Max, we call them, they are very lightweight coats. And in this delivery, we have later different deliveries, but in this delivery, they are not too long. So they're more like a car coat idea, but in a lightweight cotton blend. So I also see here more cotton blends with polyester polyamide mixtures. The Gardner idea can come then, of course, working with flaps, giving them a little bit, making them not too clean, giving them a little bit play around to make, at the end the Gardner is the outdoor part, right? Even it's urban, but it represents the outer part. So this is what you can play with. Another item, which is of course a very urban item nowadays, is the cagoule, but also here the play with pockets. This can even be shared in fabrics. Don't need necessarily to play with different fabrics. Lightweight cotton blends and play around with similar pockets ideas, which you can play on both styles. So it's about tech anoraks and cagoules. So when you think maybe for heritage the cagoule is a bit too far, then you can go on a zip through and you do the anorak, like shown in the later pieces. And of course, not to miss is the main piece is the Gardner jacket. But let's say coming back to the outfits, you know, this would be nice to be combined with the longer coat. So you have a longer lightweight coat, and below you wear a real 100% cotton Gardner multi-pocket jacket. But forget about the buttons, make it clean it up, you know, reduce a little bit from the styling, and which is what you see more or less here. So modernize this idea of a field jacket or field blazer. And of course, beside the Gardner jacket, there's also the shirt jacket, which is more or less very similar, but it gives more a shirt feel, because thinking about summer collection, Metropolitan Gardner is the Gardner on the rooftop of a building, sun is shining, maybe all those items is too heavy, and then just wear these outer shirts, you know. So they have shirt elements, but play around with jacket details. Also here, multi-pocketing idea, whatever says outdoor. The leather part, you're thinking about a Gardner blouson, so at the end it's more or less more simplified bomber style. It's nothing to do with military, but it plays with similar features like the knitted rib, simplified pocket ideas. You can even play, remember we said there's simple color of material blocking, which here shows even an idea in leather where you can play with different leather materials or different shades of colors in leather. And the pocketing, which makes again this leather blouson a bit more outdoor, is to play with pockets. Can be more classic like shown here, but of course a more modernized version will also be about we consider where you position the pockets. Also possible, I don't know if you see this is a color blocking with the same material. While those on the right side are more classic gardener style jackets or blazers. Coming to the pants, an urban cargo means at the end is a cropped cargo. So fit-wise you have different options. You can go more slim, but you could also go, which nowadays is a more fashion statement, you could go also a little bit wider. But all of them should have a cropped feel. Of course, commercial-wise, easier to do it by roll-up, which will be more difficult the wider the pants get, of course, right? So when you do a more slim, then we can do this, we can style it. But a fashion statement would really be a little bit wider and then really cropped. But you can play, and that makes it interesting. There's a lot of, especially for the wider ones, there's a lot of detail play on the hem of the feet. Either it's with buttons, either it's with Velcro, with zips to change the width of the feet angle. And what you see on the right side is a lot of detail play, also new solutions in the cargo, either with little pocket solution, with buttons, with adjustments for the waist and all these little things. And as already mentioned, a fashion statement would be going more into volume. We also have here a volume nylon pelt, which would be, of course, this is more the gardener and this is more the metropolitan approach. So even wider and non-cropped version, it's a bit extra long or elongated, but the same works here with all the details on the hem, as you see here, either with cords and strings, adjustments, zips to play around on the feet. When we integrate denim in this metropolitan garter, it's more about the raw look of denim, as you can see in the top part. And of course, the pictures are chosen like this, showing all a little bit more volume in general. Here you can even, here, most of the white ones are not necessarily cropped, so they have a little bit overlength, but some of them have folds up. I guess most of them are fixed because in this length they will not hold. Coming to the shirts, we're talking about this outer shirt already in the outerwear, in the jacket part. And of course, we also have this utility shirt, which is also somehow an outer shirt, an overshirt, style-wise. It's nothing you necessarily need to wear inside. It's more something you wear outside. It can have a little slightly oversized fit. And what makes it really interesting is, of course, the pocket play. Don't do your standard pockets in this shirt. Make it big, make a statement, change the way they look, remove buttons. No need to do extremes like this. This is just an idea, an image, how, to make them outstanding. Also here, some more ideas about new patch pocket solution, because patch pockets make them outer. We already talked about the knit part with the simple ribs. So it's all, first part is about how to update the crew neck, the basic sweater. Because imagine again, you're out in the city going to the rooftop garden, what you wear the round neck sweater. That's the piece. So it prevents when it's a little bit windy because you are on floor 55 on the skyscraper, then you wear this together with the shirt jacket or the gardener jacket. The other option is to have variety. Beside the crew neck, you also offer the V-neck. This can be even a combi, like brother-sister, playing with the same fabric and yarns in same colors. The V-neck is having a comeback. Currently, everything is about crew neck still mainly, but the V-neck has a comeback, and it is not a short one, but it's also not a deep one. But still, when you look at it, it has a slightly wider neck opening. Not the normal one, a slightly wider one. Then here, beside the simple ribs, we also see structures and cables, many different versions, but also here, keep this simple, no need to play too much around, like for example this example, keep them more simple. You can then play with change in yarn, change in color, block them to make them more interesting. The sweatshirt, also here, the alternative for the crew neck knit piece for the gardener would be the basic sweatshirt. A bit more younger in approach, so a crew neck sweatshirt in a basic crispy hand feel cotton mix felpa. Not too heavy because so no need brushing there, just keep it simple. What also here can make a little bit difference or updates for a basic sweatshirt would be pocket play. So play around with pockets visibly outside, and here it would be good if you communicate with the other product categories. So whenever you decide a shape, a size, a way, with button, without button, hidden or not, you use one idea for the whole collection. Also here, the jersey part of course continues with the t-shirt, the basic t-shirt, the crew neck t-shirt. We show here a very different version because of course a basic can be also, you have a basic, your NOS and whatever, but you might add another basic t-shirt which is a little bit more modern in sense of shape, in sense of sleeve length, in sense of fabrics. No? Don't do 100% cotton, but maybe do a cotton poly as a basic t-shirt for this delivery. Again, same idea coming from the jackets also implemented here. And again, also here, play with the pocket to add. Maybe you have this and you have on top in less colors, maybe only one color, you do one of this. It's the same in the shirts, you know. You do the basic shirts, and when you do the pocket play shirt, you just offer limited colors. Talk with the other product groups using similar colors, which can make this like a subject, a theme together. Which would then be also something which you can do in the window, right? The pocket, blah, blah, blah. The pocket shirt, the pocket t-shirt, the pocket sweatshirt, and so on. Which would be a Dornbush idea. Underwear, pretty basic here also. It's about the buttonfly boxer brief. So the buttonfly to give something like a more gardener approach, something more basic on one side, but keep it simple. You can play also here with little color or tonal fabric blockings. The socks, imagine all kind of irregularities achieved mainly by the use of yarns without having a winter feel. You know, when you look at the mild option or tweed, normally it's a very wintry theme, but the choice of yarns should make them summery. So choose something more light or even with little linen blends maybe inside to make them feel summer. I think the bucket hat is the main accessory in this delivery for sure. It's the gardener hat itself, but it's also trend-wise the hat which is more or less everywhere now. And we can think about doing gloves. Of course, this is extreme examples how gardener gloves look like, but you just use the same idea, you know, how to mix fabrics, maybe denim together with, you know, to cotton and play around. Similar ideas. No need to play exactly or no need to make it exactly like a gardener, but as an inspiration. The belts. So here it's all about belts which can add additional tools. So even you don't do it because it's just an idea, right? But having belts which provide this kind of loops, a single loop on the belt, gives the idea of being able to add on additional items on the belt, as shown here, or as shown here on top. You can even do, of course, things like this. Then in the bags parts, is also mixing the urbanity, the metropolitan part with gardener. So the metropolitan bag would be a tote bag, but the whole made up, the whole way it is shown is giving this outdoor idea. So having additional pockets on the tote, having a flaps, having these leather strings coming down, as well as a satchel idea, where you have new ways of closing the satchel itself, new mechanism with buckles or the way you push them together. Then we have these little bags, so this is more or less about small body bags or gadget bags. Here they are shown clearly as gardener idea, of course, but as an inspiration also here, imagine you do something like this, which can also be used for other purposes, of course. The shoe part, first of all, there's a lot of development in general about new sole materials and new sole solutions. The first part here shows rubber soles, more classic, but also these crab-related rubber soles in natural materials, and we still also see, of course, the contrasty white ones. Then crab itself in all kind of styles and shapes, so can be more formal shoes or semi-formal shoes, can be casual shoes up to more sporty ideas or outdoor ideas. All you can see this crab idea more or less in all different style and categories. And urban hybrids are these soles called so, or these solution calls where you have things which, let's say, shoe style. You have this more urban feel, so it's about Oxford lace shoes, slippers, but the sole are much more rugged, have a high or have very obvious profiles, saying or giving a complete outdoor feel. Knitting also, we have been talking about this before. In the past, knitting was mainly seen in sports shoes or sneakers, but they move everywhere also here. You have as a whole, as partition, here shown even in the formal part of shoes. So this was delivery 1. We're going to delivery 2. You see already we changed the pattern in the book. So this second delivery is called outdoor workwear. And when you see the pattern in the background, this has already similarities to Country Pioneer from last season, but Country Pioneer was in denim, and now this moves into heritage. Outdoor workwear is a little bit different than Country Pioneer, because the Country Pioneer was about this road trip in America, being on the road, while this one is more, again, more humble. It's the humble version of a Country Pioneer. And when you look at the mood, you know, it's not anymore the rocker on the road, but it's more the hippie in the woods. So have a similar spirit. Americana, all these kind of ideas is still there, but more humbled down, more ease. Even, you know, this kind of pictures saying it is still being on a travel, still being on the road, but the intention is not necessarily to show someone who is on the motorbike. It's more about someone who is already settling down on this travel period. But as you can see here on the right side, Americana ideas, native Indians, this is still there. A lot of denims, completely more treated, more washed, more used compared to delivery one, which was a much more cleaner way. And here it is also, even when you look at the moods, it's more about color contrast here rather than in the first delivery. So we are already out, we are on the street, and things start to move. When we're looking at the colors here, there is, of course, there are all the colors which says Americana, because you have the blues, you have the reds and the whites, but there's an addition on the top, which is more or less this part which you see here, which are the neutrals or the naturals, which says outdoor, because this theme, outdoor workwear, is meant to mix the Americana idea, the blues and the reds, with everything what is earth, nature related, the outdoors. And of course, all this part in the blues, there are so many different blues because they say denim and they say different treatments and washing results, from the darks to the lights. Here also you can see in the cuttings, there's this part of the neutrals of the nature, and then you have the typical Americana colors plus denims. So keywords for second delivery: classic Americana meets great outdoors. I think this is easy to understand. It's very much us. It's, I think, a very commercial delivery itself. It's about authenticity, trueness, and realness. So don't do any fakes, fake ideas, fake pockets, or whatever. Everything has to be real, usable when we do something. And as things start to move, they are not so flat anymore like in the first delivery. We have here a lot of malts, we have slabs, naps, all kind of materials which can achieve irregularities. Coming to the checks, of course, we are here now in the Western and country checks, so we are bigger in scale, we are more unregular, not repeated, simple, symmetrical checks, up to patchwork checks, where you play around with different checks in the similar color mood, let's say Americana colors, blue, white, blue, white, red, mixed with some neutrals, and you have different sizes playing the same color and then patch them. So from the far they have the same color mood, but you play around with different sizes. Indigo dye, it would be nice to play here even in the article part, something like what we said in the beginning, the pocket idea in the first delivery for Dornbush, right? Here could be an indigo part where you do the indigo theme in different product categories, from the shirts to the t-shirts to the sweatshirts to the knits, and make a table. Also here we still have cable and whip knits, but because from the yarn side you become more different to the first delivery. First delivery was more clean and matte, now they are structured and uneven. And all kind of washings, treatments to give this used, worn feel. So I was talking about this already, the indigo dye idea. Of course, you can even go with the blazers here and join if you want to make a more wider theme or a window. What is important when you decide this, because indigo, when it comes to the color outcome, you must be consistent, not jumping from greens to reds, and everyone has different outcomes. Talk to each other, make sure that you all work on the same direction. In general, the tendency would be more moving into the greenish cast for indigo, because they have a more used one, humble action. Even when you see the main photo of the theme, it's all about sun, green out, so not reddish. Coming to the fabrics here, the materials, also we mentioned that already, malt, slub and naps through all product categories, especially of course the whole article part, jersey, knit, shirts. It's all about irregularities. And then we come to the styles. Of course, here we have our classic field jacket. So when we do our authentic, our typical 4-pocket or multi-pocket jacket, this would be the one we put it. The one in the first delivery was really more a new way, more simple in fabric, more crispy, paper touch. Well, here we are traditionally, we are really heritage, 100% cotton, slightly washed, so moving surface, and show the buttons, show whatever says heritage, show whatever says Camel Active. The tribal poncho, this is of course more a key item or a showpiece where you can communicate this idea of Americana. We would then also choose, of course, one of our pattern, or you choose a pattern which you can communicate. And again, you can decide maybe this we play also inside in the jackets as an idea, or inside pocket lining, whatever, to have the red line in the collection. The main item here would be the trucker jacket. Here, trucker jacket in the sense of a classic trucker jacket. Of course, commercial-wise, very much could be denim, but you could also talk about colored denim, like shown here, which gives more the outdoor feel, right? When you do it in our outdoor colors, but typical trucker jacket, you might have more a Camel Active version of that. And the souvenir jacket is still out there, and it would be, when we choose our deliveries, it would be in outdoor workwear, where we can play with all these elements, embroideries, contrast sleeve play. As you see here also in this delivery, we can really go into contrast, not like in the first delivery where everything was more tonal. Here you have the colors where you can play around to make a more obvious statement. Of course, when we're talking about the leather, it's the same. The trucker jacket in maybe pork skin or in sweat as a typical basic trucker jacket, and Western shirts, which communicates, of course, this typical Americana idea where you even could play around with the pattern, which might be visible throughout different product categories. The worker style here is replacing the cargo from the first delivery. So still a similar approach. As you can see here also, we show a little bit more wider cuts, just to give you the statement that everything moves into that direction. Actually, when we're looking back at Beutel styles from the past, the boot cut style. What was the name? Woodstock, right? This could be a base to work on to do this fit. But you should renew it with elements and design which doesn't make it look old. Yeah? You might change a little bit the rise of the waist, you know, to make it not like looking too odd. And of course the same comes in the denims. So the worker idea, that's why Americana workwear, the worker idea on a denim, but here also in the washings. So you have the lighter blends in colors and treatments, as you can see here in general. The decision how far you go is up to you. Also here, make sure that you work on the correct casts. Because there's a lot of treatment ideas, currently there's also going on a lot of focus on whatever happens on the hem. So on the treated hem of denims. But as you can see, this is not for the wide cut, this would be for a slim cut. Yeah. Then of course, denim shirts is the must-have in this delivery. Everyone would wear this as the key item. And you work on treatments, you have worker details, whatever shows traditional workwear ideas on shirts, denim shirts. And on top, think about additional embellishment. Of course, can be embroidered, but also printed. This idea of embellishment is of course something which we also see through all product groups, and we see it also not only on solids, but we see this also on pattern, embroidery on check, print on check, whatever. Patchwork shirt we have been talking already, so it's the idea is to choose similar colored pattern in different sizes and mix them together. So the effect is really a bit more subtle, humble. You know? It's not about doing it with completely different things. Or this is the lower part, when this is more on the check part, this is more on the outer part. So this is more about tonality. Play around with patchwork ideas in really monochromatic way. Blue and blues or green and greens. For sure, we have been talking about this. The checks are Western influence, Western checks. So more on a bigger scale, playing with more color contrast. But you can also play with the details, you know, with the typical Western patchings or back yokes which say Western shirt. Also here you can work on embellishment on that shirt. And there's this bowling shirt. The bowling shirt is very similar to the resort shirt, but fit-wise it's, and even, you know, it has slightly longer and wider sleeves. It's, you know, remember these movies, Tarantino and then we coming to the knits. There's of course the stonewash parts or the treated parts. Everyone with a used effect, up to repaired ideas in a more, when you want to go a little bit more further, and then tie-dye effects. Of course, this works very well on indigo. But what is interesting here, it is a mix of indigo with natural colors, like the browns, the outdoor part is together. Easy cardigans, they should be relaxed, they should be slightly, they should not be dressy, not be formal, they should be really casual, easy, they can even be slightly longer, slightly oversized. To get this hippie mood, you know. We also have a basic t-shirt here, but this would be more the American heavy jersey, so heavier and light compared to the first delivery. Can be t-shirt, can be sweatshirt, can be with or without artwork. And the rugby shirt is back with fabric color and overstitched color, with of course different stripe versions, even horizontal, vertical, and artwork. Can be a very commercial item, but you can also say, of course, giving it a more fashionable approach. Updated Henley, so also here the idea is how can we modernize workwear basics. The Henley is a typical workwear shirts, and of course the updates coming here mainly from the way you do the button fly, new solutions, or play with contrast or with different fabrics. In the jerseys then, whole t-shirt part, also the tie-dyes will be here. When it comes to the underwear, it's all about basic Americana, so this more or less says typical basis fruit of the loom. When you say fruit of the loom, you know, understand what this means, or heinous bee and whatever, you know, all these typical whip basic underwear. Can have button flies. They look a little bit like a bit 60s, a bit old way, slightly even higher waistline if you want. Socks, tribal Americana, so this is about the pattern, tribal pattern on socks. Don't need necessarily to be all over, it can be also more placed and simple. Accessory part, of course, we want a trucker cap here. Move a little bit away from the typical baseball cap, because a trucker cap, that's the cap the truck drivers, of course, use. So no necessarily need to have these mesh inserts or whatever. It's mainly about 100% cotton or denim, but then you have these typical being on the road graphics on those caps. And when it comes to the hippie idea, it's more about these trilby hats and of course bandanas, but used on the head. Belts with studs to give this Western Americana, Indian native idea. Not always all over, can be also placed, segmented. And folk belts, so everything which converts this tribal Indian native idea into belts, which would be more on weaving belts rather than leather belts. Also here in the small leather goods, everything talks this Americana idea, this Indian native way. Used vintage leather. Also here work a lot with metal, either as a decorative stud or as a huge button, and work with pattern. You can work on textiles, woven or on leather, embossed, devos, engravements, prints, a lot of possibilities. Also here we have totes, but of course they are here again more used. So it's about maybe waxed, oiled cotton fabrics, which shows the shadings, the effects on the surface. We have backpacks, typical travel backpacks with more, it's not about hiking backpack, it's more about these alternative bags, you know, this hippie idea, shoulder bags, hand totes, and even folk details on the pattern. Folk ideas also on the shoes with visible stitchings, hand stitching, crafted stitchings on the shoes. And of course, moccasins will be here the main shoe Or what makes these of course nice is they look a bit more like a hybrid moccasin, because the sole says or talks a lot with something more modern, not necessarily traditionally. And you can even go into folk inspiration, translate pattern into knitting weaves or embroideries put on shoes. Patchwork ideas also here, so play around with different materials, more in a tonal or even with different patterns. And sprayed and painted effects on top of the surface of the upper. In the extreme, there's also a lot of used and cracked effects. Here it depends on how you want to convert it, in what would be the degree. And similar, like in the backs, we have these wax-coated leather uppers. That was the second delivery. Anyone need a break? No, right? You? No. Third delivery, Shaker 4.0. Shaker 4.0, the title says it all. There's nothing more humble than the shaker, and there's nothing more action than the 4.0. So it's the future and the past coming together. The mood picture says a lot when you see the surroundings where these things happen. It's on the land, it's on the field. We have moved from the real metropolitan urbanity to more the small scale countryside, city or village where there's the kirmis. And color-wise is a lot of these typical natural colors from the fields, from the land side, from the countryside. So the color card, of course, the lower part here, that is the shaker. So that's the one who is on the countryside, living a very humble, hard life. And the upper part are those 4.0 colors. So everything what says modernity, internet, online, mobility. So these two, bringing two different things together, is more or less visible in these cuttings also, where you have both parts showing up. And of course, this will again reflect also in the choice of fabrics. While we are here more natural, we are going here into more performance related fabrics. So humble farmer and digital shaker. That is the mix of this collection, this delivery, and of course there will be a lot of natural fibers, natural cotton, and linen will be strong in this delivery, because linen is the perfect material to show this shaker idea. But as I mentioned also, the digital part, the shaker part, would then be everything what is more technical approached. Talking about the checks, here we are humble, simple, tonal, mixing different yarn structures and 3D weave. So it is a bit similar like what is in the first delivery, but it's not anymore about sun fadings, but it's more about achieving structures and 3D optics by the way we weave them. Of course, it also means the choice of yarns and the choice of weaves makes these checks very different. I gave you a lot of them from China as an idea, where you have these effects. Organic textures, fine summer marls, and slab yarns to achieve all this, to achieve these shaker idea. And when it comes to visual ideas and graphics, everything is about nature and landscapes, but digitalized, so there's always something which makes it 4.0. So the materials starts with vintage household linen looms. So you can already see here on those checks how suddenly things are moving up and down, you know, there's a 3D effect on the fabric. Yeah, even when you see this typical household linens, the colored part is jumping out of, you know, it's not flat, it's really flat, come out, you know, creating levels, creating 3D optics. Same what you see down here, to achieve irregularities and 3D effects by surface stitched optics. So rustic textured tweeds, so the same idea goes into knit part, of course. By choosing the yarns, you can achieve these different levels to avoid they become flat. And bring them together with textured summer malts, or in general for different product categories, because they also can give this idea. The outerwear here starts with a safari jacket, and you can see here already it's not anymore it's more related to the second delivery where we had the heritage typical field jacket, but here they are much more modernized. When you look at this part here, you can already feel the fabric is not the 100% cotton gabardine anymore in garment wash. There is something which makes them more technically, but it is not so clean like in part 1. So even when you choose those technical ideas, make sure they are moving, make sure they are not flat, make sure they have irregularities. And another way to make these things outstanding is, of course, here everything is a bit more extreme, 4.0. So while maybe the fabric and the color and the style itself says shaker, then 4.0 is really about exaggerating the details, make them really come out and give them a different approach. Colorless actually can be anywhere. You can do colorless blazers, you can do colorless coats, you can do colorless bombers. Everything could be here because colorless at the end says humble or shaker. And in general, that has also something to do with this colorless tendency that the lapel is slightly going down, yeah, and slightly becoming thinner. Yeah. So on one side removing completely because you are colorless, but on the other side shrinking it down to a more thinner size and giving them or lowering them a little bit to give a similar idea like a colorless but on a lapel. The whole idea comes from the Amish, so the shakers, the Amish blazer, which is for you more, the inspiration, the idea where things come from, and they of course wear it also together with the waistcoat. The trousers part, we have here tapered styles. We are now not anymore in the workers and cargos, forget about all that. This is more about chinos or very simple styles. They can be in different volumes, so they shouldn't be necessarily slim fit here anymore. They should have all a little bit volume, but tapered. We can do patchworkings, like in the front part of the pants, based on a chino always. No? Not a worker anymore, not a cargo here. So this is the typical, again, this is would be the typical Amish pant when they go on a field, and because they always use the same, get broken, they repair everything. That's their culture, that's their identity. They don't waste, everything is about sustainability. And that's why everything is about the updated chino. At the end, it's all about little details, because style-wise, a chino is a chino, there's nothing much to do, but you can play with little details. You can even change one loop belt because it has been replaced, you know, and the rest is all same. So you have to really look for all these little details on the pants, which gives another idea. Additional pocket in the back, for example, or a flap on the back because, you know, don't want to lose things when you work in the field. This is more or less the idea. You can work here, of course. We are not anymore in outdoor work where everything is heavily treated, but this is also not about cleanness. This is moving, this is washed, but as you can see, so you have this peckering everywhere. You see there is a treatment, but it's not about destroying things. We see a lot of chambray in pants, which is an alternative for denim, but giving this linen feel, giving this shaker feel. And of course, also here in the details, you know, the Amish, they would do it by hand with buttons and da-da-da-da-da. That's why it looks like this. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but it's just an idea where these things come from. And yellow cars, because you are under the sun, you are in the fields, everything is yellowish. Of course, linen, denim linen, or linen denim, for pants, for shirts, for jackets, is a typical item which makes sense. Also here, look at the little details, you know, everything which says, you know, have been used so many years and then they repair, they stitch, they have these little details. White shirts, colorless or elongated, the typical Amish shirt. Of course, you don't need to do, this is not about doppia ritorto in, you know, whatever. This is not about this white shirt. This is about a linen or linen cotton mix, moving surface shirt, can be even off-white, but at the end it's about this typical colorless idea or even slightly longer shirt idea. And then we're coming to the checks, and as you can see here already, the first delivery checks, they were already simple, but these are really, everything is out, there's just a line, super simple. But you can play, of course, also here with alternatives of them. What is important is that the color play is not about contrast, it's not about multicolor, everything is monochromatic and tonal, light grounded. You know. The view or the impact from the far would be, oh, this is a solid shirt, because it seems like the check disappears because of the color use, but also because of the yarns make this color, these patterns disappear. We have here also suggested the woven tee, of course, would be a fashion item. Not sure if you're ready for this, but this could be also an alternative or an additional item. And this would be also like a cotton blend, cotton poly. It would be a shirt item because it's woven, so it's more about cotton blend or cotton nylon, cotton linen, something like that. Then we're coming to the knits, and as we have everywhere, we have basics, emphasis on basics, because it's all about this humble idea. And the basics in this delivery would be, of course, everything what is more linen, giving a linen feel. No need to be 100% linen, but can be a cotton linen blend. You should give knit parts this crafted idea, the same what we saw already in the shirts and in the jackets, everything what says reworked, by hand, by the people, because they repair items. And everything, of course, is about natural fiber structures, and can also think about, when it comes to styles, about a vest, knitted vest. The jersey part, earthen surfaces, so think about yarns, which gives these, once they are woven, they give this very irregular optics surface because of two-tone idea. Of course, this is very, very basic, but moving up to something really more changing, which can also achieved, of course, by by graphics or by washings. We have also here the pocket idea, but while in the other deliveries it was more about outstanding pockets, this is more about a hidden pocket. So very simple, very tonal, very reduced. And also here slightly elongated t-shirts. When we have these elongated shirts, also the t-shirts have a slightly longer look. Underwear is all about basic whites, very simple. And the socks is all about these natural fibers. So also here cotton, linen, hand knitted approach, very irregular two-tone effects. Very cozy. Accessories, the Amish straw hat or Amish hat in general. So with the white brim straw hat. The typical plaid scarves, and when we do scarves here, very simple. It's about the material. It's about those linen optics up to the heads. Belts should have this raw leather approach, which darkens the longer you use them. When we do the braces here, they're really simple, nothing fancy, one color. Small leather goods, also this raw leather approach, which darkens by the use, or going into linen optics in raw. Humble mooded bags, which says again, raw linen, natural, untreated materials. Shoes, corduroy in sneaker styles, simple sneaker styles. Also here untreated leather, which age by the use. Of course, espadrilles are here because they talk about this natural feel from the sole already, have this linen approach. And everything, when you look at these, can be different, can be formal shoes, sneaker styles, slippers, everything what gives this natural approach on the fabrics for shoes. I have another delivery, that's the fourth delivery. I don't have, we have a color card. Surfer resort. Of course, we are coming here to the high summer, so everything is about beach, sun. That's why surfer resort. It is more a little bit similar, like, when you look from delivery 1 to 2 to 3, delivery 1 looks like you might be in Manhattan at the Metropolitan Garden on his rooftop on the skyscraper. The second delivery would be he's on a road trip somewhere in the country. The delivery 3 would be then on this road trip he passes the Amish area, and finally the last spot he comes to the seaside. So this is also about the American surfer retro resort idea. Color-wise, very simple, very summery, light shades, as you can see here, of different blues mixed up with the greens and the reds. So also here the impact similar like what was more or less here in the second delivery, but everything is lightened up. Everything is suddenly summer. Everything is washed, faded, treated. And of course, style-wise, we are completely different because here we are just on short sleeve shorts and out at the beach. Keywords here, retro holiday. So it's about something what happened in the past. The retro surfer. I think this title is wrong. Huh? Yeah, retro surfer is white. Surfer resort is wrong. Yeah, that's why I was a little bit confused. So it's retro surfer. So it's about the old way of surfer style, American surfer style. We have structured surfaces, irregularities in fabrics, but adding open weaves, transparency, and fishing net optics to have this real summer feel. And fabrics are faded, saltwater, indigo checks for the shirt part. Everything is treated sun-drenched and bleached, saltwater faded, time-worn, colors wash-stained and cloudy. Coming here to the items, the first is, outerwear is not so important anymore in this delivery, so the only item here is mainly the windbreaker, something light, more technological, not on cotton, lightweight nylons for a windbreaker. The trousers, of course, is all about shirts. We're talking about beach and sport shorts. It's not, this is more about solids first. Of course, you can do also the printed items, but try to think about short solution, because in the past, or let's say when we're looking back, what we used to have, we usually has our typical Bermuda, and then the shorts, and then we have prints on or color blocking on beach shorts. But actually there's a lot of things going on in shorts, in different way of wearing shorts, different lengths, and they are meant not to be as a beach short. Yeah? Even you wear them in the beach, but it's not about swimming here. Then the denims, you're going really light, super bleached, in both in short and in long. And as you can see, they're still maintaining a more yellowish cast, even it's light. There's a lot of these buckles in the market, not only in the shorts, but also in the long pants actually, especially everything what is a little bit more jogger related. So it's a flexible waist with a front buckle and indigo sweatshorts. In the shirts, there is, beside the really bleached checks, we have blanket stripes, horizontal and vertical, and of course all kinds of resort prints. Normally the candy stripes is a typical formal shirt, is the typical, you know, in the 80s everyone was wearing this to office. But they're coming back, but not as a formal shirt, they're coming back as a casual shirt. So they are a little bit wider in the dimension of the stripes, and they are converted into a short sleeve resort shirt or long sleeve version with really bold stripes, giving this look of pergola, veranda, outside in the sun, whatever. And then we have the saltwater checks, is something which we have been done already, especially those where you mix indigo yarns. In the jersey, we have short sleeve sweats. So basic sweats with little details on short sleeve or short sleeve hoodies, up to sleeveless hoodies and sleeveless zipped hoodies. So all versions are here. They are not necessarily always worn like this, but also underneath with a tee. And of course here we can play around with basic stripes or nautical stripes in blue, white, white, blue, very commercial items for long and short sleeve, that's up to you. Underwear part, we have all over prints for boxer shorts and photo prints, as well as these nautic stripes. And then we're coming here to the real beachwear, which will be the swim short, which can be talk about blocking ideas, about geometric patterns, or about the real tropical prints. Accessories, headbands, like the surfers, Miami Beach or Venice Beach, scarves, little scarves, or bigger like towel scarves, and belts which have this rope idea. Then we have beach bags. So again, what we have been saying about these candy stripes, they are also on the bags. Of course, much more bigger, much more bold. And then everything, or different kind of tote bags which you take to the beach, while the lower part is more on sailing backpacks or sailing bags. Can be even with slightly performance water protective or water resistant fabrics, materials. And the shoe part is about sailing shoes. So here talking about cotton blends, typical sailing shoes with the white rubber sole. And also here the stripes is there, the candy stripes for shoes in either on sandals, but even on espadrilles, slippers, up to outdoor hiking versions. Surf scuba, so this is about the insertion of scuba material into the shoe, mainly in the upper part, where they give additional support, and elastic strap water sandals. So sandals you can walk in the water. Then we have track slides, so sliders which gives the mood of being a trekking sandals, while these are the pool sliders which you more wear on the beach, and flip-flops. Buckle sandals, this is of course a detail, especially for the track sandals. Use of typical buckles in different placements. Use of the triangle loop also for the track sandals, as well as strap velcro ideas. Everything more on the functional part of these surf sandals. And that's it for heritage.